Okay, so now that 2020 is over, time for a year wrap up, I guess you can call that. For this video, I'll be giving you my disappointing reads for 2020. That way, by my next video, I can give you the best I've read for 2020. So here's how I'm going to do this. I have 8 books on my list that disappointed me for the year, and I'm going to categorize them into 3-star ratings, 2-star ratings, 1-star ratings, and others. Others meaning those that I did not rate or did not finish. So let's get started. So let's start with the 3-star rating books. The first one is, I guess you could say, if you've watched my other videos, you would know that this one really disappointed me in a sense that I was expected more out of it, and it's probably because of the hype. And this book is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And I know a lot of people really like this series, really like this book in particular, but as the first of the series, I guess I expected way too much. Maybe it's also because of the hype. I wanted more from it. I expected, and then, well, I already explained this in a previous video, but I felt like it should have stopped at a certain point, and the other part of the book cut into a second book instead of one continuous book. I've read and finished the second book, and I think it was a ton better than the first book. So when I say that The Poppy War disappointed me, it's not that it's a bad book. It's a good book. The intentions is great. The execution was a little, how do you say, I guess, as a whole it didn't work out for me. But it's a good book. But that's why it disappointed me. There's just that big but. And of all the hype that went on, there was just that big but. So you can just watch my previous video where I kind of explain why I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. So yeah, that's book number 1. Then the next one is Graceling by Christine Cashore. And this one, I also gave it 3 stars. It's not that bad. It's just that it's the same situation with The Poppy War, where I was thinking, I was hoping that I would like it more than I actually did. You know, it's not bad. I can see how people would like it. And if younger me read this, or if I read this a few years ago, I probably would have liked it. It's like a book that was fun for its time. It was published way back, 2000, early 2010, I guess. Somewhere, I forget what date, but if I read it then when it was published, I probably would have enjoyed it more. I buddy read this with other booktubers, and yeah, I can see how it's a fun book, but expectation versus reality, it just didn't meet what I wanted out from it. So yeah, it's 3 stars. It's not bad. It just was, I was disappointed from what I wanted out of it. The next book is Mga Kaibigan ni Mama Susan by Bob Ong. I really wanted to like this so much because it's written in a style that I would expect to like. I like stories when you're reading it. It's like someone is writing in a journal style or writing in a letter style. I really like those kinds of stories because it's like you're looking into something so private. And this book, it was highly recommended by a lot of other Bob Ong fans. I haven't read much Bob Ong, and before reading this, I read Bob Ong's MacArthur's, so my expectation was rather high. It didn't work out for me. I didn't think it really used the strengths of the format it was using, and yeah, I had, I guess, too high of an expectation because the book uses 2 things that I really like in novels, and that's the journal or the letter kind of writing format, or whatever you call it, and it's horror. So that's 2 things I really like. and I guess I have very high expectations when it comes to those kind of books. So I guess that's why I was disappointed. But it's not a bad book. It's not. I gave it 3 stars, and despite my disappointment, I can see how other people will like it. There will be people who will find this more enjoyable than I did. Next book is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. So this one, again, it's more of my expectations. Like, I expected this to be... It's the kind of book where I wanted it to be something, but I was given something else instead. So it's more of a my fault kind of thing that I expected it to be something else. So that's why I was disappointed of it. This is also a book that uses the kind of writing that I like, the kind of plot that I like, which is time travel. And unfortunately, I guess I missed the part where people told me it's also romance, and I'm not a huge romance reader. Yeah, if you see where this is going, that's how it kind of went downhill for me. It's not a bad book. It's really thick though. More than 500 pages, I think, but it's really thick. And I already have the whole series, so I do plan on continuing it someday. My expectations was more on the time travel side, and I kind of ignored the part where people were telling me that it's romance, and then I got into it, and when I talked about this over at Books and Tea Discord Book Club, they mentioned, it's a term that was new to me, there was a term they were using, I can't remember now, but I'll just put it in the screen somewhere. They were using a term, and if I had known that the story was gonna go that way, that I would not have been disappointed. It was mostly because I expected something else. So it's a disappointing read, but mostly a me problem than the book's problem. And I hope I'll enjoy book 2, because I've seen people who enjoyed book 1 saying that book 2 is definitely better, but it doesn't really change in the whole romance part. Yeah, it's mostly because of the romance. I'm not a huge romance reader, so that was part of my problem. But it's not a bad book. So yeah. So those were the 4 books that were disappointing for me, but I still rated 3 stars. And I guess you can say that what's common with those 4 books is that they weren't bad books. It's just that I expected something else and got something else. If that makes any sense. Let's move on to the 2-star books. Well, book, it's just one. And that is John Marr's What Lies Between Us. I really like John Marr's The One. The One was my first John Marr's book, and I really enjoyed it. So I expected a lot with What Lies Between Us. And yeah, there's again that expectation. Sadly, I listened it in audiobook. I'm not sure if I'll enjoy it if I read it in ebook, but for the most part, it was... I guess I was expecting it to be as good, if not better than The One, but... The problem, my biggest problem with What Lies Between Us is that the author made up a disease. I'm not even sure how he made those up or what his basis was, and this isn't sci-fi. It's sort of contemporary, I guess. I'm not sure what... I'm really bad with genres, but it's not sci-fi. That's why the whole making up mental health condition or a disease or whatever it was that he was trying to do was not sitting well with me, because I work in healthcare, and those things, yeah, it can get a little nitpicky about, especially if it's really not convincing. I would understand if the author was going for a fake disease or a fake health condition, if it was intended to be fake condition throughout the story. But he was trying to really pass it as something that's real, and that really was not sitting well with me, and that really destroyed the whole experience for me. It's really those kind of things in novels that really just a pet peeve, I could say that, I guess. Especially if we're gonna talk about Gone Girl. Yeah, I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna rant. But yeah, it's also the same reason why I really, really hated Gone Girl. It's a pet peeve of mine. If you write anything that's medical and I see something that's just really wrong, it's giving me a headache just thinking about it. So I'll just okay, let's just move on to the next one. And this one it was 2 stars initially, and I've decided to just rank it down to 1 because no matter how much I think about it, it's just really bad. So this book is G.M. Coronel's Tragic Theater. And I was thinking maybe I should watch the movie after, but a lot of people told me not to waste my time. If the book was bad, they say the movie was even worse. So thank you for saving my time. I'm not even gonna attempt to watch that movie anymore. So yeah, Tragic Theater is horror, and it's just trying to pander on fears of religion, I guess. Trying to inject the fear of those who are religious, trying to play on religion or something, because there's a priest involved and all that, and it just wasn't working for me. It just was boring, and there were a lot of passages that were incantations or prayers or whatever you will call them, and they just got repetitive and took up too much space. And to think it's a thin book. I think it was 200, less than 300 pages. And there was just too many unnecessary things, and it didn't go where I thought it would. And it was a waste of time. And if you like horror, I just skip this book. Just don't. Go find something else to read. This is just a sad horror book, if you can call it that. I mean, the premise is really good. The idea, the thought is there. Like, imagine that there's this theater where a lot of ghosts who can't move on are stuck due to some reason. There are hundreds of them in one building. Just imagine how crazy that can get, and the possibilities that it's so. I really love the idea, but the execution was just why? Just don't. If you like horror, if you want to be scared, just skip this book. Don't waste your time. Just let someone tell you what happened. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. And this one, I left it unrated. This next book I left unrated. It's Kambal Tuko. And it's a book that I read for Weekathon also, along with Tragic Theater. And the problem with this one is that it's a Wattpad book. And unfortunately, it's one of those Wattpad books that gives Wattpad a bad name. Unfortunately. I don't know who's to blame here. If the writing itself is bad, or if the editors didn't do their jobs, or the publishing was very lacking. But right off the bat, I was hesitant because it's Wattpad and I haven't really dove into Wattpad. So let's be honest here. I usually get negative feedback when it comes to Wattpad books. That's the norm, and there are probably good ones out there, but yeah, sadly this is one of those that give Wattpad a bad name. And it's a published book. The publishers had a chance to edit, to polish this before they let it out, but no, they didn't. I don't know what happened. I don't know how things go down in the publishing business, but yeah, it didn't. No. Aside from because it was a Wattpad book, if you look at the cover, you can see the author's name and why. That's all I'm asking. Just look at the author's name and why. It doesn't look. I don't want to use the term professional because this, it's art, so you don't really have to be professional. But in a sense, it doesn't look like it's real, or it doesn't look like it's serious. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to mean here. Just look at the cover, that's all I'm saying. And then the writing and all that, just there's a lot. I left it unrated. The author is fairly new, so I have a feeling that the author will search for the ratings on Goodreads, and I'm not a writer, I'm just a reader, so I don't know how things go on publications. I don't think I have the authority to say anything about all the stuff, but this is how I feel about it. It's just I don't think it was polished enough. If you have a copy of it already, you guys go read it, but if you don't, it's not worth it. Anyway, let's move on. The last one is my first DNF for the year. It's not my only DNF for the year, but it's my first, and it's the only one I'm including in this list because the others I had a reason for not finishing. It wasn't because I was disappointed of it. But this one, my first DNF for the year, I really did not finish it because I got so bored. I went through it through an audiobook, and the idea is that it's non-fiction and it's supposed to be about some killer, some murderer, some known murderer. And I just got off listening to Wondery's Dr. Death, which is a really good podcast, by the way, if you guys want to check that out. And I was hoping that the Mad Sculptor through an audiobook would give me the same experience or something similar, a similar experience somewhat with the Mad Sculptor. But what happened was the first few minutes, I think I got to the 40 to 50 minute mark before I quit, and I was expecting something exciting. I mean, it's a story of a murder. How can that not be exciting? You know, the idea of someone going deep diving into why this person does things the way he does, like why. But what happened was that the first few minutes was so boring. All the author ever did was explain about the lawyer. I think that was the lawyer. I don't care, and I would rather attend a symposium than listen to what this lawyer has achieved in his life, because I don't care about the lawyer. Maybe it would matter down the line or something, but it was so boring. It felt like a lecture or something. I don't know. It just was not my thing. Some people, I think, yeah, there will be some people who would like this kind of thing, I guess. But if this was it felt like a textbook. No, it was just a big no for me. So I couldn't last an hour. So I quit. So yeah, those are the 8 books that disappointed me for 2020, and they're not all bad. Well, half of them were really bad, but as you see, just because some books are good doesn't mean they won't be disappointing. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. But anyway, yeah, and some of those, they may not live up to the hype, at least for me, or for some other people, it might not live up to the hype, but it doesn't mean that the subsequent books will also flop. I mean, you know, but that's the thing with books, that's the thing with reading, is that it's so different for each person, and that's the beauty of it. So yeah, with that said, the next video I'll be uploading will be the best reads for 2020, and that one I'm really excited for. So see you in the next one.